Before we get started, there's a couple of special guests we have with us tonight in the audience I'd like to recognize, and I'd like to begin with our Ventura County Supervisor, Peter Foy. Peter, you are right over here. Great. Director of the Reagan Library, Duke Blackwood. Duke? Okay, so I want to start by admitting that I have an affliction, one that has plagued me far too often in my life. I mention this because it's perhaps a disease that might afflict some of you as well. We'll see. So I did some research on this disease, research that's difficult to do because you can't find it in any medical journals. However, the French have coined the term for it, and they call it esprit d'escalier. So let's call it ED for short. Now, translated in English, it means spirit of the stairway. Now, let me explain this other ED. As I promise, it does have a direct connection to the special guest we have with us tonight. The spirit of the stairway is best described as a person's inability to develop a perfect comeback to a snide remark or an insult that someone's hurled at you until it's too late. Like the real ED, it's a frustrating experience that I'm sure some of you have had at some point in your life. Now, maybe you know the kind of situation I mean. You're at a crowded cocktail party or a dinner party or a bar, and someone loudly disagrees with you, belittles your opinion, or hurls an insult at you in front of many others. The person who's confronted you, possibly a liberal, doesn't know what they're talking about, but for some godforsaken reason, under pressure and with everyone looking on, you say something completely lame in response. But the moment you leave the party and start down the stairway, as if by magic, you come up with a perfect comeback. The thing you should have said. Has anyone here ever had that experience? Okay. So there are plenty. Well then, you have esprit d'escalier, ED. Now, I'm going to tell you how you can cure it. I have the antidote. What you need to do is turn to page 1 of Greg Gutfeld's book, The Joy of Hate, and start reading. And when you finish Greg's book, you will be armed as never before to take on the whiners and peddlers of victimhood he writes about that despise your conservative sensibilities long before you make it to the threshold of the stairwell. Greg, the host of Red Eye and co-host of The Five on Fox, as well as the author of The Daily Gut, has written a page-turner. This is his 4th book. It's for everyone, 6th book.
It's actually 5.
His 4th book. It's for everyone who has ever looked for the perfect comeback and a distillation of what's wrong with progressivism and political correctness by which we all seem to be measured in society today. When I read it, I couldn't help but feel like it was a real-life example of speaking truth to power. And I don't mean speaking truth to power in the liberal sense. Speaking truth to power was actually a Quaker expression hijacked by liberals a long time ago for their own purposes. What I mean is that Greg has a way of speaking truth to power to those who occupy the salons of the media elite and the legions of the Tolerati he so enjoyably skewers in his books. As Greg would say, enough of the whining. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our special guest, Greg Gutfeld.
Thank you. Oh, stop it. Thank you. It's the first library I've been in where I haven't been asked to put on my pants and leave. I'm not kidding, actually. I'm going to get to that library joke in a minute, but that was going to be my intro, but I have to tell you that during the signing, I met so many nice people when I was sitting in there, and I was sitting there going like, wow, what would it be like if all of your fans were jerks? Like, wouldn't that tell you something? That if all of your fans are actual, I can't swear because I'm in the Reagan library, but if they were jerks, I mean, what if you were Bill Maher? So, I'm signing books here, and a young man gives me a tiny unicorn. You can see that, right? It's the smallest unicorn I've ever seen, but it's a unicorn, and that's all that matters. Do you think Sean Hannity gets unicorns? Nah, doesn't have time for unicorns. Bill O'Reilly, maybe if he was doing a book called Killing Unicorns. I get the unicorns. They don't get the unicorns. By the way, I don't know, how many people are fans of Red Eye? All right. This whole unicorn thing got out of hand. The reason why I was talking about unicorns in the beginning of the show was I thought that it would be odd and weird if a middle-aged man was obsessed with something a teenage girl would be. And I thought that as a conservative, libertarian, it would be interesting to create like false narratives about you that would kind of throw off the left. If you assign certain kinds of behaviors to yourself, they don't know what to make of you. And I learned this when I was at the Huffington Post, that I created this whole false story behind me that I lived with a flight instructor named Scott, and he was never home. And there would always be some kind of weird stench in the basement and stuff. And I wrote this stuff because the left wasn't used to dealing with somebody who was messing with them. In the world of left and right, the right was always what I would call the Dean Wormer, the Dean from Animal House. They delighted in that. My goal in life is to switch that. And I don't need any help. Because the left has become, over the last 30 years, the Dean Wormer. The person that is trying to sap fun out of your life and uses tolerance in order to outlaw any decent behavior that you might have. I made that joke about being thrown out of a library. I made that joke because it's a good example of what the book is about. We did a story in Red Eye, I can't remember where, and it doesn't matter because I'm probably making it up. There was a story about how they were having a problem with homeless people looking at pornography in libraries. And a solution in the 1950s would have been easy. We don't have the internet, so it doesn't exist. That was a terrible joke. My point being is, common sense in the 50s, in the 60s would have been you throw the person out. But that's not how it works these days. In the age of tolerance, you have to tolerate, or your child has to tolerate, a person who is using the internet in the library to look at pornography. So their solution was to create screen guards. That was their solution. Rather than just doing the right thing, which is, get out, you pervert. Believe me, I've heard that many times, and it worked. It got me out of John Stossel's apartment. But then he asked me to come back in. We had coffee. We played some Jenga. The big point, there's a lot of points in the book, but the big point is everything sensible becomes mean and everything bad becomes justified under the rubric of tolerance. So the joke about taking your pants off in the library is now tolerable. Saying, I don't want that happening, is narrow-minded. So that's where we are today. We are in a world where basic common sense is considered wrong or outmoded, irrelevant, bad, blah, blah, blah. I want to talk about the fact that I'm here at the Reagan Library, which is kind of amazing. Of all the presidents that I've met, he is my favorite. He's the only president I've met. But I want to tell you about how that happened because I don't know many people that have met him, and I was very lucky to meet him. In 1987, 88, I worked for a magazine called The American Spectator, which was run by Bob Tyrrell. An interesting guy. My job consisted of going to the drugstore a lot and picking up mysterious things. I won't get into this further because I think this is on C-SPAN and I'm still friends with Bob. But I was paid on average, I think my take-home pay for 2 weeks was $360 for 2 weeks. And I lived with two elderly ladies on George Mason Drive in Arlington, Virginia. I had nothing. Nothing. So whenever anybody complains when they're young and they complain about trying to find a job, I go, try living with two old ladies on George Mason Drive in Arlington, Virginia. Try it. And then they invited their older sister to live with them. So there were 3. Anyway, apparently Ronald Reagan, twice a year, goes to people's houses to have dinner. Didn't know that. Chose to go to my boss's house. And this is like pretty awesome. So I go, what do you need? And so, of course, I'm mowing the lawns and I'm washing the windows. And I'm hoping that over time I'm doing all of this stuff that sooner or later he will say, Greg, you can stick around and meet the president. And sooner or later, after like days and days of preparation, that's what happened. He said you could meet him. The high point, there are a couple of high points of meeting Ronald Reagan. One of them was when the bomb sniffer dogs came in and urinated on my boss's briefcase. To this day, he thinks it's me. And it might have been. The great thing about dogs, they don't live long enough to tell stories. Move the unicorn over here. So the dinner, I often tell people that I shared an intimate dinner with Ronald Reagan. That's what I tell people, and it is true. It is true. Because after the dinner was over, I actually took his dinner and I went into the kitchen and I ate it. And I'm not kidding. So technically, I shared an intimate chicken dinner with Ronald Reagan. The embarrassing part about meeting him is how you have this amazing opportunity and you screw it up. I was in the living room of Tyrrell's apartment in McLean, Virginia, and you're watching this insane motorcade coming up the street, and all the neighbors are in lawn chairs outside drinking, and this is a huge deal. Even if they hate Ronald Reagan, which they probably did because he's the world's greatest president, blah, 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 and they hate him. He's no Jimmy Carter. So they're all waiting there. They're all of a sudden, they're starstruck. So I'm out there. I'm like, not out there. I'm in the living room, and I'm wearing a cheap suit, stained tie, and I'm watching this motorcade come in, and I'm going, wow, he's got to, he must be coming in. And I turn around, and he's standing right there. It was an entire decoy. So there's this person in a Reagan mask. That's how you feel when you see somebody like that. You think, oh, it's somebody in a mask. It's who's this in a Reagan mask? But it was Ronald Reagan, and he was drinking a screwdriver, and he was sitting there drinking, and so there wasn't any Secret Service people there, and I was standing there, and he was just kind of standing there, and there was maybe a couple people there, and then they had a photographer there. It's not like now where everybody's like this, there was unless they had some twitch, but. So I, did what I would normally. I went up and I said hello to him, but I didn't say hello to him. I said, ahoo-ha, ooh-ha. And he just looked at me and probably has, that. It's nice that they have those people come to these dinners. How compassionate. Anyway, I ended up in the kitchen. I ate his dinner, talked to the Secret Service guys. It was raining. Midge Decter played piano. Remember her? Don't worry. It's fitting I'm here. I think I have some things in common with Ronald Reagan. He was governor of California. I lived in California. He was once a Democrat. I once bought a counterfeit watch in Times Square. Same thing. Everybody makes mistakes. As an actor, he starred opposed a 3-foot hairy chimp named Bonzo. I work with Bob Beckel. No. Cheap. That was cheap. That was cheap. The only reason why I can make that joke about Bob is that he's a lovable guy. Yes. Are we going to make this speech about Bob? Because I will. I got nothing to do. I'll be here all night. No, Bob's a great guy. I'm saying that because this is on C-SPAN, so he's going to see this and he's going to say, why didn't you defend me? Bob, I'm defending you. Bob's a great guy. Bob performs a service. I should shut up. I should just quit. All right. Another thing I have in common with Ronald Reagan, he championed trickle-down economics. I have a weak bladder. On June 12, 1987, he told Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down this wall. Huh? I like vodka. He called Russia an evil empire. Every day I call Dana Perino an evil person. And I know you guys think she's adorable, and she talks about that dog. Whoa, 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 whoa. Lies. Do you guys actually think Jasper is a dog? That is an Armenian man that she hired as an indentured servant and wearing a fur costume, and all she does around Central Park is take pictures of this poor, sweaty man all over Central Park. It's disgusting. Somebody has to tell the truth. That's what I'm here for. Lastly, Ronald Reagan was a charismatic leader who influenced millions of people concerning freedom and individuality around the world, and I think that I and all of you are products of that. See, it's not a joke. I should stick to the joke thing. All of you look at me like, what was that about? Anyway, so the book has been born from the Reagan era. It's about people who pretend to be tolerant when in fact they're not at all. And they use tolerance as a weapon to shut you up. Who was the first real target? Was Ronald Reagan. What was he portrayed as in the media? What kept you from talking about low taxes or free markets was being described as mean, as being cold, as evil. The dad that never hugged you. That's the basis of all liberalism, is that he was the dad that never hugged you. He didn't hate the poor, he ate the poor. A consequence of this, Republicans have always had to deal with this, and we don't really fight back. We assume that we are cold and we don't know what to do about it except just continually make the economy work while we let the liberals destroy it, and then we come in every 2 years and fix it. But right now, common sense is viewed as intolerant. The nicest thing that you can say to somebody, no matter who it is get a job. It's the nicest thing you can say. When you're walking down the street and there's a guy panhandling and you say, get a job, you're complimenting him. You're saying that you have the will and the means to get a job. But now, these days, if you say that, it's seen as mean and intolerant to assume people have the power to act of their own volition. That is where we are at now, that we can't take care of ourselves. And if you assume a person can take care of themselves, you are a bigot. I never bought into the compassionate conservative thing. Do you remember that? Still playing with the unicorn. The hat fell off. The compassionate conservative is redundant. Being a conservative is being compassionate. It just takes the extra step for people to realize you believe in something that is better for them than giving them something. Calling somebody a compassionate conservative is like calling somebody a naive liberal. The biggest offenders in the world of tolerance is what I call the tolerotic. These are people that are claimed to be tolerant until they meet you. They don't realize that tolerance only works when you talk to people you disagree with. It doesn't work when you just use it amongst your friends. That doesn't work that way. It's like having a party by yourself, which I am doing at the Holiday Inn later. The tolerotic, they travel in packs. I call them the tolerati. Examples of tolerati are protesters, activist groups, and malaria. To them, everything is mean. Everything you do is mean. Common sense is mean. Language is mean. You can't call terrorism terrorism. You call it workplace violence. You can't call terrorism terrorism. You call it a spontaneous mob because that might hurt somebody's feelings. We are a sensitized nation now where feelings govern thinking. Wealth is considered mean. If you actually worked for a living, that's mean. Achievement is considered mean because somehow what you achieved was at the expense of somebody else. Thinking about wealth for a minute, I'm going to jump ahead. The thing that drives me nuts is all of these celebrities calling for an increase in taxes. So I thought about it for a while and I looked at their careers. A lot of them over a span of a decade got into the $20 to $30 to $40 million range of salaries. And they're the ones that are saying we should raise taxes on people like me. But the people like them aren't people like them. They're people in their 60s who worked 35 years getting to a $2 million job. But if you say this, you sound like you're defending the rich. But actually, they're throwing the rich under the bus. There is a guy who's in his 60s who has 5 kids, a couple of grandkids. He actually worked for that money. You didn't. You're an actor. I would say hold your applause until the end, but I kind of like it. So, examples of this phony tolerance and what it does is the way the media portrayed the Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street. I have a couple of chapters. I could have written the whole book on this, and I thought about just doing it on that. One was mocked, the Tea Party, and one was sanctified, if that's a word. Is it? Excellent. If you look at the Tea Party, hundreds of thousands of people, no arrests. If you look at Occupy Wall Street, thousands of arrests. The proportion of weirdness and violence cannot be questioned. I always say this about the Tea Party. They don't throw chairs through their windows because they own the chair and the window. Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party are a great example of ownership versus public use. No, you don't poop in the driveway you own. And Occupy Wall Street pooped everywhere, and that was the big problem. They created acres of unsanitary conditions to the point where even businessmen who were sympathetic to them were like, get these freaks out of here. They can't even take care of their own bodily functions, and they want to change the government. If you can't pee, you're not changing anything, you stupid jerks. Anyway. The chapter on, I have 2 chapters on that. I focus basically on how the media demonized the Tea Party, lionized Occupy Wall Street. I'll get into why they did it later in the third hour of this speech. Other areas, borders. Everybody has a border. But if you talk about a border, you're a racist. France has a border. They don't deserve one, but they have one. Our military is treated on campuses with intolerance. If you organize a care package delivery to Afghanistan, there will be professors and student activist groups who say, but war's bad. Like, why are we sending stuff to people who kill babies? I don't get it. I don't have anything beyond that those people are idiots because they allow people like Bill Ayers to teach. So they give accolades to terrorists. Well, he is a terrorist, yet they give no respect to our troops. There's a chapter in my book on that. I urge you to read it immediately. Conservative women, you have the toughest job because it's feminists hate you, and they go out of their way to demonize you, even though you're often stronger than they are because you are rejecting government dependence. Feminists embrace government as daddy, and you don't do that. That's kind of cool. Language, like I said before, things like Fort Hood, Benghazi, that's been completely replaced in the language of tolerance through political correctness. Smoking. Smoking is the last bastion of intolerance for a lot of people. I get harassed all the time. They see me as a cigarette tree, however, when they're drunk. They go, I don't smoke. And then they're drunk, and then, can I have a cigarette? Shut up. A lot of this is done through what I call the tyranny of the cool. Cool trumps all. We live in a culture where everybody wants to be cool. It's important to be accepted by teenagers. How did this happen? Fact is, I use the phrase teenagers to describe everybody now from 18 to 38, because that's what we have. They're obsessed with media, pop culture. People in the entertainment and academic world are also obsessed with being cool. They will do anything to be cool. Cool says traditional success is bad. It's an attack on their parents. It always comes back to something about Dad didn't hug me enough. I don't want to be like him. And it becomes a phony rebellion where good and evil become relative. It used to be good was good and evil was evil, but cool makes it so that evil's all right. You see that in movies. Nobody, if you ask an actor who they'd rather play, Charles Manson or Mitt Romney, they would say Charles Manson. Because, I'll get the little swastika on my forehead, I'll lose weight, it'll be a really great role and I'll win an Oscar. Hollywood romanticizes evil, and they have a hard time actually pointing out the good in things. Pop music. I remember growing up, and there was always stories about rock stars trashing hotel rooms, and how cool it was, and how rebellious it was to destroy things. But somebody had to clean that up, and it was always a maid. And I wonder if these rock stars who are liberal and left-wing ever think about the little guy who has to clean up their stupid messes, or the stuff they have to deal with when they're ODing or getting high or getting wasted and breaking things. It's the ultimate hypocrisy. They can pretend to be a rebel when in fact they're hurting the regular guy that they're championing. I used to be a time... There used to be a time when, being a celebrity was supposed to be edgy. You were supposed to speak truth to power. But now they French kiss it. If you look at Jon Stewart, he did a whole rally making fun of the Tea Party, as though that was supposed to be rebellious. But all he was doing was speaking truth to power to people who were speaking truth to power. It was the Tea Party who were the rebels, and he was making fun of it. I think his rally was called a rally to restore sanity. He wasn't talking about liberals. He was talking about Tea Party people that went out for the first time in their lives. They went out and they did something. Wasn't that supposed to be elevated by the media? Isn't that what they always talk about getting involved? Isn't that what it's all about? Nah, not when you're not a liberal. Never mind. Then it's funny. You're old, you're stupid, you're silly. We like to hang out with the Occupy Wall Street people. By the way, I always ask a liberal, who would you rather share a bus seat with, a Tea Partier or an Occupy Wall Streeter? You know exactly what they say. They lie. So, I skipped ahead there. So cool, in my opinion, is based on the David and Goliath narrative. Big is bad, small is good. So big things like America, the military, business, breakfast buffets, are seen as evil, and people can make fun of them. When you're in Europe, they always make fun of how fat Americans are. I lived there for 3 years. I had to put up with it, even though they're just as fat and stupid. Small things, however, are seen as somewhat heroic. Terror groups are seen as freedom fighters because they're small. OWS, because it was a tiny faction, was seen as cool. Activism is always seen as the David. Dana Perino. The media embraces David over Goliath, even if David is evil. If America were a house, the left would root for the termites. I used that before. I thought it worked. I'm not trying to say that the left are bad people. I'm just saying they aren't people. No. By the way, no, not true. I use that. Why I say that is I use that because that's what they do. And it's time that we just throw it back at them, even if it's a joke. They are people. They are people. They're some of my favorite people, but they don't own the turf that is ridicule. So why is the cool versus the uncool thing important? It won an election. Let's face it. The reason people like Barack Obama is he's cool. He beat a war hero, a community activist, organizer beat a war hero 4 years ago. How did that happen? Because he was cool. It was cool to vote for him. The culture embraces fake coolness over real achievement. Kids would rather play astronaut than actually be one. It's more interesting being famous and becoming an actor than actually doing something. But I will say this, there is a really big bright spot to President Obama being reelected. It is like tearing off a Band-Aid. If he had lost, he would be back for another 4 years. You know it. And he would be 45% more grayer, which makes him more trustworthy. So we're uncool. That's the way we are. That's how we are. I don't believe that. I look at our message. What is our message? We like to build things. Making things is cool. What's wrong with that? We like to own stuff. That's good. Competition. Competition is awesome. The liberal view is self-esteem is better. It's better to build self-esteem without competition, but that doesn't work. The highest incidence of self-esteem can be found in prisons. I think I made that stat up. You know, it's one of those things that you read and you repeat over and over again, but I'm certain if you ever meet a criminal, they believe they can commit crimes because they deserve to. Why not? I deserve this. I don't have to work for it. I take it. Our alternative to that is competition makes you a better person. You win. Unity over division, what we used to call patriotism, is cool. We now live in a country where everybody is governed by their identity, which is not cool to me. It's far more cool to say you're an American. We have to find a way to articulate that again to people that are coming here, that the reason why you came here is because this is a really awesome place, and here's why it's awesome, and here's why it's exceptional. What's not cool is dependency, which is gaining ground. The Julia lifestyle, if you remember the website that the Obama campaign put up that showed a woman's life being taken care of by the government. Somehow that is okay. The idea that, you know what, don't try too hard, don't worry about it, we'll be there for you, we're the net. How did that get to be cool? Government intrusion is not cool, but it's cool to them. The left used to say, stay out of my bedroom, but now they want to get on your plate. They want to tell you what you're eating. They want to do, I just bought cigarettes. They're called gold now. They got rid of lights. What is wrong with America? For them, what's cool is separatism. This is the worst part, and I think it's born out of the self-esteem movement, is describing yourself by not what you've done, but what you are. And this is the most dangerous thing because it feeds into, no one's happy. You cannot be happy defined by your own identity, because you're only happy when you're defined by your achievements. It's in your heart. You know, when you get up and you do good work, we're creating a mass of people that are proud to be what they are, which makes no sense to me. Having said that, I'm proud to be short. We've replaced what was an exceptional country with a tolerant country. It's why President Obama went around the world. It wasn't because America was exceptional. It was because he wanted them to know that we want to be liked. We want to be tolerant. We're not so bad. That never works. People sense weakness, and we see that now with the Arab Spring. They didn't care. It's the Arab nightmare. So in closing, which I always like to say, even though I don't know what I'm going to say, in closing, the cool, they're in the driver's seat right now, and we're in the passenger seat. Unfortunately, the cool drive like Jane Mansfield. Too soon? It was too soon for a Jane Mansfield joke? So I've got to actually have to go look for a joke that involves a horse and buggy, and you guys will be okay. It's tough for us to find a messenger because as a conservative, we don't like government. Why would we want to join something we hate? Asking a conservative to run for office is like asking Bill Clinton to be monogamous. It's not. It's like asking an activist to bathe. I could go through 10 of them, but I'll stop there. However, the people that you're dealing with once every 2 years and once every 4 years, this is like their romance novel. Running for office is their romance novel. They are into it. Their cars run for office. When you see them, they have bumper stickers. It's like they want you to know how they feel all the time. I'm going off topic here. I was interviewed by a Knoxville paper today, one of the worst interviews ever. It was awful. So the first, she did some kind of like softball question, and then she started asking me like, why is your book, isn't your book just what Fox News says? And I go, can you give me specifics? And it was like 40 seconds of silence. I go, no, if you could just tell me what you're talking about. She goes, well, you know, bashing liberals. And I go, well, actually, that's not what the book's about. Do you have specifics? And it was clear that she hadn't read the book. And this is how you can't argue with a liberal when they don't even want to show up to do their damn homework. But anyway, so finally I kept going after her, and I kept going, okay, why do you say these things? She keeps going, this is a journalist. I feel that like when you say these things, and I feel like blah, 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 and I feel, so I'm going, okay, I think that only liberals say like. I might be wrong, but I said to her, I go, it's weird. I go, right now you keep saying how you feel as opposed to think. And don't you think that's strange when you're interviewing an author about a book and you keep saying how you feel? Isn't that weird? And she didn't have an answer for me. But we're seeing each other later. Oh. She sounded cute. No, I'm kidding. It was weird though. It was, so what was funny was, she said to me, so what was you transitioned from magazines to TV. What do they have in common? And so I said, well, the most important thing when you're a reporter or anything is to prepare. Have a list of questions. Read up on the person, perhaps read the book. Anything, magazines, books, that's what you do. And I don't think she even knew that I was talking to her. It's like, it's really good. I go, this would be good advice. This would be really good advice for a journalist. Anyway. So like I said, the cooler driving the car, we're in the passenger seat. The message is great. Our message is always great. Free markets, free minds, individual freedom, working hard. Can't go wrong with that. People who come to this country come for that reason. We're just not that great at articulating at it because we don't play that game often enough. And we need to find a messenger who can do it, who can speak it in a way that, I don't know, is more fun, more interesting. I don't know. You got 2 years, so start your engines. Yeah. Thanks.
Well, Greg has been kind enough to set aside a few minutes for some questions.
No, I didn't.
Okay, I'll be happy to take any questions you might have. If I could just ask, we have people in the aisles, wandering the aisles with microphones, and if you could just wait till it gets in your hand, because you're on TV, right here.
I was just curious, do you see maybe you, or do you see anybody that could possibly maybe not replace Andrew Breitbart, but maybe step up and continue his message, kind of fighting back? Not fighting back, maybe that's the wrong word, but
doing what Andrew did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew was too big for this planet, and I think that what's interesting is I've met a lot of people that work at Breitbart and people that I work with on the shows. It's kind of like, in a weird way, there's about 7 or 8 people that need to do what he does, and they are doing it. And I think you're seeing it. I mean, there's so many people that were affected by Breitbart and by his death. I compared it when I was at the funeral to a Big Bang. It's like all these, it sounds weird, but all these pieces of Andrew went everywhere. And everybody walked away with a little piece of him. And, Gavin McInnes, who's on my show a lot on Red Eye, keeps doing this, what would Breitbart do? In this situation, and he had a shirt made that said "so" because Breitbart would always, like, when you get in a fight with a liberal said this, he'd go "so," and it always worked. So I think it's like you can't replace him, but a lot of people together are, I think.
Over here.
Good question.
I was just wondering, you're one of the few conservative voices who does really well at humor. And I'm wondering if you have an opinion on why that is, and if we can get better at humor and at like speaking truth in that way.
Some of the funniest people I know, or most of the funniest people I know, are conservatives, but they're doing other things. They are involved in business. It never occurred to them to become comedians. You know what I mean? And I think it's a weird thing because most of the comedians that I meet when I do Red Eye aren't liberal. It's just that they don't speak their politics. They're a lot more out there than you think, but they got a paycheck, and they don't want to get screwed. And that's the reality, is that a lot of people just don't like to say what they feel. And the most successful comedians always are grounded in common sense, and that's generally, in my opinion, a conservative value. I didn't answer your question. But we're still meeting later.
Greg, up
In the
here
last
in the
election,
balcony.
in the last election, it seemed as though many of our candidates had a tin ear and didn't understand the constituents that they were speaking to, made blunders that were exaggerated and amplified by the media, but
Right.
nonetheless blunders. How can we get our candidates to at least understand hip, if not be hip?
You know what? I would argue that they don't necessarily have to be hip. I don't think Ronald Reagan was hip. It's funny. It's like if people talk about Ronald Reagan to this day of how conservative he was he not conservative enough? He raised taxes, this and that. But for some reason, he exemplified what was special about the American idea. And I do think that, no one would ever describe Ronald Reagan as hip, but he could articulate something that nobody else could. I had a strong feeling that Mitt was getting there after the first debate, and I saw it when he said that one line, like, I've been doing this for 25 years and I have no idea what you're talking about. It's like, whoa, that was like an amazing line. His mistake, and I said this over and over again, is why did he drop Libya? I don't know why. He got scared after the Crowley thing, and then I think that, he had a glimpse of what he could do in the aggression and that stuff, and maybe he was too nice a guy. But I agree with you. I think like when you remember back in the primary, and there were 13 people, by the way, and I bet you can't name them all because I sat around trying to name them before I went on Wikipedia. But there were 13 candidates, and not including that guy, but 14. But you liked parts of them, but you didn't like all of them. And that was the problem. I think, however, though, that, I remember at the Huffington Post when I was writing there, and they were going crazy over Barack Obama. In 2005, I guess, was when the HuffPost started. And I was looking at him, and I go, Dad, they have every reason to be excited because he's the most progressive candidate they've ever had, and it's a perfect package. And it's like, it's going to happen. I'm an optimist. I think that Romney was almost there, but he blew it at the end.
Now, right over here.
Be a happy warrior. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people get down, but you can't get down. The great thing about liberalism is that they always screw up. It's like, basically, when a liberal is in power, it's like when the parents go away on vacation, and then you come back and you come into the apartment or the house, and it's like you can tell there was something happened in here, and you got to get somebody to come in and clean it up, and that's usually a conservative.
Back here.
Hi, Greg. I just want to, on behalf of everybody, thank you for coming to California and being here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I'm a Red Eye junkie. We tape it and we watch it every morning. We love the show. I just want to thank you for being a voice for people like us. I mean, we're standing in line and people are sad about the election still. We're just like, but there's that Gutfeld. It's the one voice that makes us laugh. And you are the Will Rogers / Mark Twain of our generation. And I'm serious because you're great. So thank you.
I think of myself more like Shania Twain, but okay.
Over here?
Hi, Greg. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
Both you and I are not so tall, but that's okay. We're big in spirit.
I think I'm a little taller than you.
Yeah, you are. Everybody's a little taller than me. I was
Thanks for
watch-
bringing it up, though.
I
Do you
was
have a
watching-
question besides
I
insulting
do.
my height?
I do. And it's not a serious question, but I was watching The Five the other night, and I'm wondering from this particular show if you got an avalanche of emails. You were talking to your group, and you said you wanted to use the phrase fiscal cliff. And you slipped and said something else that I won't say, but I just want to know if anybody else caught it besides me.
A lot of people did. Okay, if you do 2 shows a day, that's going to happen. And by the way, I'm not even sure what I said, but there are two versions of it. There's one that's profane, and then there's one that's really biological. So we will just, no, I didn't, you know what? It was such an obvious slip of the tongue. This is the Reagan Library, people. Make me sick with your minds.
Okay, so real quick, we'll go up here on the balcony.
Hi, I and my young boys are a big fan of yours. I have my 13 and 10-year-old watching you every day.
Oh, thanks. Where are you?
I'm up here.
Oh,
Great.
hey,
Up on the
where?
balcony, way up.
Oh,
Actually, when I told them I was coming to see you, they wanted to come too. They're big fans.
oh.
I make them
So you
watch
put him in a
every
closet?
day.
I mean, that's perfectly fine. You're a terrible mother for coming here and leaving your kids alone, chained.
Yeah, well, duct tape.
Duct tape works.
Yes. Believe me,
Does.
they've used it for many things.
Yeah, you know that's why they invented it. But they couldn't call it kid face tape
No.
because you would have been in trouble. So
I
they called
have-
it duct tape.
I have 5 boys, so there are many
well,
more uses of
congratulations.
duct tapes than you can imagine.
Now she
Anyways,
has 5.
My question is,
Yes.
what can we do to start breaking this liberal grip on the term racist?
You have to mock it. By the way, you're getting close to the truth when somebody is calling you a racist, because it means that's their last arrow that they have, and you just have to laugh at them and you have to mock them, unless, of course, you really are a racist. I want to make it clear, racist and bad. Racist and bad. Being called a racist when you're not, also bad. It's also bad. It can ruin your life. It can ruin your career. And the left does it with, is it without or with impunity?
With.
I should read more. I might have said, I would have said, what is impunity? Probably not a word I should remember then. It's gone. What else?
Back here?
Hi, Greg. I think you've done a great job talking about a lot of the topics in your book, but I noticed that you've avoided one topic that you've asked us to ask you about.
What?
Panda the Poopah.
Yes, this is one of those things that the editors of the book go, I think we should cut that. Because people who watch Red Eye know that I create fantastical fantasy worlds, asides, just because I can, and why shouldn't you? So in the book, I bring up, actually, it's kind of a personal story, and frankly, I'm offended that you would bring it up here. Things didn't work out between me and the panda. We write, but he doesn't write back because he's a panda. Pandas can't write. I think they might.
Hey, Greg, it's nice meeting you, and thank you for coming to LA. My question is, I've spoken with a few students that go to the UC system here, and
I do that too.
yeah, I know.
I have a
Yeah, I was
panel
trying to pick
van
up on the dude,
that I
yeah.
kind of just drive around,
Anyways,
just asking him stuff.
My question is, he actually is a North Korean sympathizer.
Really?
And it seems to me that there's a lot of indoctrination going on in college.
Right.
And there isn't a voice for libertarians or conservatives.
No, it's true. And by the way, he's a friend of yours?
Well, not anymore.
That's the irony of the academic world in the campus, is that it's supposed to be the land of open minds. But if you're conservative, the reality is it's the opposite. Wow, I had no metaphor. But it's because it's a self-perpetuating machine. The journalists that are there teach the future journalists who teach the future journalists. The only person, like if you get a gender studies degree, your only future is to teach gender studies. So that's the only way, and the only way you can break that is to get into academia, but who wants to do that? Well, you do it for the students, but I mean, other than that, the pay's all right, you get tenure. Tenure is also a problem. If we got, I mean, why are you allowed to be a crackpot on campus? Because you will not get fired. That's tenure.
Over here.
One question. Are
Yes.
you going to continue to keep asking who pushed the video?
Yeah. You're referring to the Suzanne Summers exercise video that was stolen from my locker, probably by Shep. That's why he's in great shape. Yeah, it's the only question that matters. And by the way, everything about this story is going to come back to that. It's always who told you to do that and why. There was no evidence that there was a mob. And I always go back to one thing. It was a gut response about how you feel about America and how you feel about everyone else, that maybe it is our fault and maybe we should apologize even though there was no evidence, and they laughed at us when we did that. So
Over here.
yeah. Yes. Better. Oh.
We know a little bit about your mom. She's adorable. Her.
Yeah.
We miss her. What about your dad? What did he do? How did you grow up? And were your parents the influence on your politics?
Well, my dad's serving 25 to life. Actually, he's the winner of the family. Because, no, my dad passed away when I was 18 from cancer. So, no, that happens. You know, you move on. Good guy, though. Really good guy. Thanks for asking, I guess.
Right down the middle here. See?
All right.
Yes.
I've always wondered, what happened to that liberal talking pinch on Red Eye?
Wait, do you guys miss Pinch? All right, here was my feeling. It was actually, I thought it was a practical decision because of the fact that there were new people that were watching the Five, and the Five was being repeated, and they were coming into Red Eye. And I was thinking, okay, what if these folks are not used to Red Eye, and the first thing they see is a talking newspaper? So the idea was to move the talking paper later into the show, but then we just forgot about it. That's the funny thing about stuff, is you forget. There's a lot of things I'm supposed to do, but I just forgot to do it, and one of them was Pinch. Pinch is somewhere in a closet, probably dying.
Up here in the balcony. Over here.
Hi, my name is Yoko Misawa from Tokyo, Japan. I love you, and this is better than going to a George Michael's concert. Anyway.
No, wait. Nobody goes to the George Michael concert for the concert. They go for the after concert. It's a park.
Can I get a backstage pass? Anyway, I am.
There's about, every time I'm about to say something, I keep going, it's the Reagan Library. I say that holding a unicorn.
Anyway, I am a conservative working actress here in Los Angeles. I'm surrounded by lefties.
Yes.
And it is hard to meet nice conservative men like yourself. And I was wondering if you could start Fluffy McNatta's dating website.
You know, I like
It's gonna be a hit.
I like the fact that you bring up Fluffy McNutter, because I bet there's probably half who doesn't know what Fluffy McNutter is. There's a few people. Fluffy McNutter was a mascot that I created on Red Eye, which was this crazy fluffy thing. This is what happens with TV. Is one producer said, you know, I don't understand this Fluffy McNutter thing, so they took him away from me. Much like Gunnar, my stunted half brother. They are starting these conservative, liberal dating sites for this very purpose.
I tried a honey date.
What?
I tried a honey date by Sean Hannity, and they're like two guys in California.
Really?
Help me.
You know what? I'll send you some numbers. All right? If one guy shows up looking a lot like me in a disguise, and at a weird time of night, it's probably
Does
not me.
he do dishes?
We will never eat.
Hi, Greg. First of all, thank you for the homage that you gave for Andrew Breitbart on the Red Eye. That was fantastic. Now, we're conservative women, and we used to have a sense of humor, but every day we just have this knot in our stomach, and we'd like to get over it. We've heard Ben Shapiro come and speak to us, and he said, we've got to go after the media. And that's fine for him. He's got that forum, but what can we do sitting here and going home and doing normal lives? Thank you.
Well, I mean, who's to stop you from mocking them wherever you want to go? I mean, look, I don't have I mean, I'm lucky. I can say whatever I want. You can tell me what to say. Basically, that's what people do, is that they find me and they go, you have to say this to Bob. Sometimes I actually say it. But the whole thing is to keep a good humor and know that you're right. That's the thing, is you always have to know that you're right and not be shaken by idiots.
All right, we've got time for about 2 more questions. We'll go right here.
I was wondering if you could tell people like myself who hasn't allowed a liberal within 100 miles of him how you can possibly influence those people.
Wait. Basically the only way. I mean, it sounds kind of arrogant, but I always feel like I never really felt that left and right was a horizontal relationship. I always felt that it was vertical, that you start there and you move up there. And it's not an original idea, actually. The old line is, what is a conservative? It's a liberal who's been mugged. And I mean, I don't know who said that. It might have been William F. Buckley. But it is the truth that at a certain point, life mugs you in so many different ways. When you have kids, you're mugged by your kids. You're mugged by taxes. And that turns you into a liberal, a conservative. And a liberal, I was saying this earlier to somebody, that like a liberal can hold on to their fanciful ideas until it's their property. And then all of a sudden, it's like they're not sharing at all. And that's kind of I think that's the evolution. I do worry that, you know, we're becoming part of a society where we believe our government should be this all-caring being. I believe the government should help people in need, but I think we're establishing that the government should be helping everybody. That scares me a little, and we have to take that back and teach people that self-reliance and achievement is what matters. It's the only thing that makes you feel good.
Time for the last question, right back here.
Hello, Greg.
Hi.
I just got a question if you've already started working on or have any ideas for your next book, actually.
Who told you to ask this question? I told you to wait in the car. You never listen, do you? I don't know how we got... I told you not to let him in. I gave you a picture of him. And you were supposed to... yeah, I'm working on my next book. Some of the stuff that I talked about in here about the cool is going to be what I think my book is going to be about. I think. I don't know yet. Or it could be about fuzzy things. I really like fuzzy stuff.
Very
Slippers, cats, You think I'm done yet? I could keep going with fuzzy stuff. I Googled it this morning. There are 86 million fuzzy things. Lint.
Okay, while he continues to think of more, can I just
Snowballs.
Can I ask that everyone allow Greg to get out this way, because he's going to sign
Winter
a lot of
gloves.
your books. And so before we give him a round of applause, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Stop it. I like to do the wave to nobody in particular, or what Joe Biden does.
Greg's going to head upstairs to sign books. For all those that don't have a signed book yet, you're going to receive instructions in 30 seconds on exactly how to line up to get your book signed. So thank you again for coming.
Yay.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could